These are conditions that have gone too far and are now too costly to treat. After corrective surgery, it's time to organise the mobility aids. Our workshops in Nepal and Uganda are constantly coming up with cheap and efficient wheelchairs, walkers and prosthetics. We can make a functioning and comfortable leg for about $25. An imported artificial limb costs about $1,000. It's probably better engineered, but is unaffordable to those amputees who earn $2 a day. But our locally made devices can be repaired locally. In Nepal, 22-year-old Kamala was flying a kite that struck power lines. She subsequently lost both arms and one leg. This was a particularly difficult case. Thanks to a huge team effort involving Rotary, she was fitted with prosthetics in Australia. But there continued to be problems with her elbow, not flexing enough to allow her to eat. So we worked with her and came up with the simplest of solutions. Our work does not stop when the mobility aids are in place. Rehabilitation is a slow, precise and often painful experience. This is Ema last year, and now thanks to some simple parallel bars, a walker and regular physiotherapy, she's up and running. Many of the people we rehabilitate have not had much of an education or even a job before. But we try to encourage learning and work. We set up microcredit enterprises, allowing disabled people to have some capital to start small businesses. Raising goats may not seem like a lot, but it's an income generator in a remote and mountainous country like Nepal. Meanwhile, these women are learning computer skills. We've been working with Ganga for a while. She slipped in a kitchen fire as a child. But now, fitted with limbs, she's now up and walking and training to be a community nurse. Through practical and efficient solutions, we can offer self-help, not just sympathy to people with disabilities in the developing world. In order to maintain the momentum for this work, we rely on your support.
You're about to meet a guy Sir Ed would have been proud of, someone who's continuing his tradition of changing lives on a shoestring. Rob Buchanan, you see, is doing his own bit for the people of Nepal, and like Sir Ed, there's nothing flashy in achieving what he's set out to do. While Sir Ed and his mates knocked up schoolhouses and clinics working at the start from a very basic level, Rob's doing the same for Nepalis who, through disease or injury, have lost limbs. And the man from Keri Keri is doing it with the stuff you or I would simply throw away. Michael Holland with the Tin Can Tinkerer.
It's not a pretty picture. No, it's not a pretty picture. These are people at the lowest end of the social strata. If you cried about every single person that we saw in our work, you'd be an emotional wreck. If you have a major disability and you contribute nothing to the family's income, you're a liability.
Beneath the mask, an enterprising tinkerer. Happy in his work, finding pride and pleasure where others see only hideous disfigurement.
It is a love affair.
From this cluttered shed in Northland, Rob Buchanan's reaching out to the disabled of Nepal.
If someone gets themselves a replacement part for their body that is functional, that is light, that can do the job, I think you'd have to call that the ultimate Christmas present.
Born out of the ultimate in backyard Kiwi can do.
Well, we've got here a bunch of moulds. aluminium moulds made from Coca-Cola tins.
Just crushed up Coke tins?
Melted down scrap tins. These are made in Nepal in a foundry, and we've used up all the scrap aluminium. And from these, we put plastic powder. It's recycled plastic powder in there. And from those, we cook and create very low-cost legs.
We're on our way to making legs.
A complete leg only weighs about 1.5 kilograms, 2 kilograms, and the cost of the materials for this leg is about $8.
$8 for a life-changing bit of technology.
You got it. And what is important, it's made inside the country, it's not imported.
So if I said that looks remarkably simple, is that fair?
Often the simpler the design, the more complicated it is. I mean, simple things are actually harder to make than complicated things.
Likewise, there's nothing particularly complicated about this 57-year-old. He finds it difficult to talk about the personal motivation for his charity work, and will hear nothing of comparisons with Sir Edmund Hillary over his dedication to the disadvantaged of Nepal.
He gave out hope, he gave out energy, and it was picked up, and it's blossomed and grown. I think we're making a little bit of progress. We're getting some disabled persons trained, we're getting some walking, we're getting some to surgery, we're getting some calipers. If we could get one rehabilitation centre up and running every year, and that only involves about $20,000, I'd be very happy. For people who've lost their arms, this will be moulded to fit onto the arm, and with a rotating ball joint on the end here, they, on their own, can then take a range of tools and they can click them off themselves and brush and replace.
Just everyday utensils that we take for granted.
Fork, knives, toothbrush. And our job now is to make them affordable and available. Affordable and available.
Buchanan says the key to limbs from leftovers is creating a partnership with local people, as opposed to simply giving handouts.
So our projects are all about empowering local people to find their own solutions. So we call that ownership. We're not doing sympathy, we're doing self-help.
Hard work or fun?
Hard work and fun and incredibly satisfying. This is a man called Ragab. He's a school teacher. For 27 years, he has not been fitted with a lower leg because he couldn't afford it. He's gone through 32 pairs of crutches. In 27 years, he's worn out 32 pairs of crutches. He's now fitted and he's walking, and he's going to now become an administrator for one of our projects.
Does that make you sleep well at night?
Makes me sleep soundly, yes.
From a tatty old shed in Northland to the slopes of the Himalayas?
You could say it's Everest, and here it's never rest.
And Rob's Limbs from Leftovers project is also changing lives in Kashmir, Ghana and Uganda. If you'd like to help him out or become involved, contact him on his website, mend@extra.co.nz, and the details will be on the close-up site as well.
Getting around is something we take for granted, but for Rob Buchanan, mobility has become his passion, providing it for the poorest of the poor.
Well, New Zealand it has to be called one of the countries that is a have. The countries we work in are have-nots.
How do you get from an orchard in Kerikeri to having someone in Kashmir walking down the street?
Yeah. Well, once it was not my problem. I've decided that yes, we could do something.
Unfortunately, in developing countries, there is no shortage of people for Rob to assist.
Some are carried to us. Family hear about our work, our centres. They carry them down. There's people in need will always come looking for help.
And they all have remarkable stories.
As a baby, Ganga rolled into the fire, and which is very common in Nepal, and both her legs were burnt and amputated. And now, with plastic prosthetic legs, she's now walking, and Mend has helped her with her training to become a midwife. Another boy in South India had never been on his feet. Just for $20, we built him a walker, and now he's up and stretching his legs for the first time. Bachelor Davin's a very handsome young boy, South India, born with polio, and fortunately we were able to help him. We built him a tricycle, and it's changed his life, and we hope he's going to be successful as a graphic artist. His family very poor. He earns about $10 a week, his father does.
New lives, new hopes. And all thanks to a man with a vision and a bit of Kiwi ingenuity, working from his shed in Kerikeri.
In the plastic limbs, we're using just a single powder. It's a plastic powder. It can even be heated up and cooked on an open fire. These are made in Nepal. We've used old soft drink cans have been melted down, and they cast in an old bronze factory.
What's the advantage with making it so quickly? Why does it need to be made in an hour?
Well, one of the problems is, for instance, in the earthquake zone, where in a catastrophe, possibly 10 or 15,000 people now have got mobility problems. There's going to be a very big demand for prosthetics.
Rob says he can get someone mobile for between $10 and $20, be that by prosthetic limb or wheelchair. Project Men puts an emphasis on self-help, getting the immobile working and not begging on the streets. But it's begging that Rob is finding himself doing.
We have got that problem of having enough profile to be able to fundraise. And without funds from the New Zealand public, we cannot access any government funds.
And limited money means limiting the help.
It does worry me that a lot of the disabled youths and children that we're working with starting to make progress, starting to get their training. It's been curtailed.
It's obvious any funds are going directly to those who need it most. Rob fulfills his passion on the smell of an oily rag. And with the generosity of friends, his neighbour's sewing room doubles as Project Men's headquarters.
It's a daily joy to hear what's going on in Ghana and Kashmir and Uganda and Nepal and South India. And it's good to hear progress being made.
Mobility and independence, a gift of a new life, from one side of the world to the other.
Helsinki always puts on a good show for us, doesn't it? You might remember a story we ran last year on New Zealand charity Mend. Mend helps disabled children in poor communities across the world. Well, the viewer response from that story, I'm pleased to say, was huge, enormous, and had a big impact on the little organisation. So we sent reporter Rebecca Cashin out to catch up on Mend's progress.
When Northland man Rob Buchanan hit middle age, he decided not only to change his own life, but also the lives of some of the world's most disadvantaged children.
About 15 years ago, at the ripe old age of 40, I decided I better do something useful and set up Mend, and we've been busy ever since then.
Busy is something of an understatement. Mend, mobility equipment for the needs of disabled, has its base in Kerikeri. But its real work is done in some of the poorest communities in the world, helping disabled children in places like Ghana, Nepal, Tanzania and India.
Our project's all about disabled kids getting a little bit of choice and a little bit of opportunity in their lives, and particularly we get them out of their house where they've sat neglected. We get them out and get them a little bit of hope and some future.
And now that hope's starting to spread. After Mend featured on Breakfast last year, 250 people donated to the charity.
With that money we built this whole new centre in Kashmir. Now something like 45 children every day come to that centre.
It's a small but significant step toward fixing a huge problem in an area suffering from years of war.
20,000 disabled kids and youth in that valley have not even had any assessment, and we're just chipping away at some of them at the moment, chipping away at one district, and we hope to expand that project. We would like to build 7 centres in that valley, and that would then reach all those 20,000.
Without Mend's help, the future for these children is bleak, often left neglected in a corner of the family home.
With particularly poor people, any time and money spent on a disabled child, they feel often is lost money. If you have not arms and hands and cannot, if you cannot plant rice, if you cannot cook food, etc., you're regarded as not really being a worthwhile part of your family.
Many of the families don't even realise their children can be successfully rehabilitated, and so are reluctant to attend the centres at first. But they soon change their minds.
Once they see some change, the families get behind it, and they're rallying around.
For the children themselves, the improvement is literally life-changing.
Last year you featured one girl, Gunga, who used to crawl to school. She had lost both legs in a kitchen fire. She's now a trained nurse with our funding, and she's now chairperson of her own organisation helping others. All kids want to have fun, and all kids want to be mobile. If you gave a child a choice between sitting at home in a corner or out playing with their friends and up and walking, I think that there's no choice there.
That is fantastic. Fantastic story. It shows the difference one person can make.
Absolutely.
Details of that will be on our website too.
All right, just...
With Christmas coming up, it's a good time to think about people that are less fortunate than ourselves.
An intrepid Kiwi has just returned from Kashmir, where the daily challenges facing disabled people require both ingenuity and a bit of Kiwi number 8 wire.